Max Weber. In our time, the internal situation, in contrast to the organization of science as a vocation, is first of all conditioned by the facts that science has entered a phase of specialization previously unknown, and that this will forever remain the case. Not only externally, but inwardly, matters stand at a point where the individual can acquire the sure consciousness of achieving something truly perfect in the field of science, only in case he is a strict specialist. All work that overlaps neighboring fields, such as we occasionally undertake and which the sociologist must necessarily undertake again and again, is burdened with the resigned realization that at best one provides the specialist with useful questions upon which he would not so easily hit from his own specialized point of view. One's own work must inevitably remain highly imperfect. Only by strict specialization can the scientific worker become fully conscious, for once and perhaps never again in his lifetime, that he has achieved something that will endure. A really definitive and good accomplishment is today always a specialized accomplishment. And whoever lacks the capacity to put on blinders, so to speak, and to come up to the idea that the fate of his soul depends upon whether or not he makes the correct conjecture at this passage of this manuscript, may as well stay away from science. He will never have what one may call the personal experience of science. Without this strange intoxication, ridiculed by every outsider, without this passion, this thousands of years must pass before you enter into life and thousands more wait in silence, according to whether or not you succeed in making this conjecture. Without this, you have no calling for science, and you should do something else. For nothing is worthy of person as person unless he can pursue it with passionate devotion. Yet it is a fact that no amount of such enthusiasm, however sincere and profound it may be, can compel a problem to yield scientific results. Certainly, enthusiasm is a prerequisite of the inspiration which is decisive. Nowadays, in circles of youth, there is a widespread notion that science has become a problem in calculation, fabricated in laboratories or statistical filing systems, just as, in a factory, a calculation involving only the cool intellect and not one's heart and soul. First of all, one must say that such comments lack all clarity about what goes on in a factory or in a laboratory. In both, some idea has to occur to someone's mind, and it has to be a correct idea if one is to accomplish anything worthwhile. And such intuition cannot be forced. It has nothing to do with any cold calculation. Certainly, calculation is also an indispensable prerequisite. No sociologist, for instance, should think himself too good, even in his old age, to make tens of thousands of quite trivial computations in his head, and perhaps for months at a time. One cannot with impunity try to transfer this task entirely to mechanical assistance if one wishes to figure something, even though the final result is often small indeed. But if no idea occurs to his mind about the direction of his computations, and during his computations about the bearing of the emergent single results, then even this small result will not be yielded. Normally, such an idea is prepared only on the soil of very hard work, but certainly this is not always the case. Scientifically, a dilettante's idea may have the very same or even a greater bearing for science than that of a specialist. Many of our very best hypotheses and insights are due precisely to dilettantes. The dilettante differs from the expert, as Helmholtz has said of Robert Mayer, only in that he lacks a firm and reliable work procedure. Consequently, he is usually not in the position to control, to estimate, or to exploit the idea in its bearings. The idea is not a substitute for work, and work in turn cannot substitute for or compel an idea, just as little as enthusiasm can. Both enthusiasm and work, and above all both of them jointly, can entice the idea. Ideas occur to us when they please, not when it pleases us. The best ideas do indeed occur to one's mind in the way in which Eyring describes it, when smoking a cigar on the sofa, or as Helmholtz states of himself with scientific exactitude, when taking a walk on a slowly ascending street, or in a similar way. In any case, ideas come when we do not expect them, and not when we are brooding and searching at our desks. Yet ideas would certainly not come to mind had we not brooded at our desks and searched for answers with passionate devotion. However, this may be, the scientific worker has to take into his bargain the risk that enters into all scientific work. Does an idea occur or does it not? He may be an excellent worker and yet never have had any valuable idea of his own. It is a grave error to believe that this is so only in science, and that things, for instance, in a business office are different from a laboratory. A merchant or a big industrialist without business imagination, that is, without ideas or ideal intuitions, will for all his life remain a person who would better have remained a clerk or a technical official. He will never be truly creative in organization. Inspiration in the field of science by no means plays any greater role, as academic conceit fancies, than it does in the field of mastering problems of practical life by a modern entrepreneur. On the other hand, and this also is often misconstrued, inspiration plays no less a role in science than it does in the realm of art. It is a childish notion to think that a mathematician attains any scientifically valuable results by sitting at his desk with a ruler, calculating machines, or other mechanical means. The mathematical imagination of a Weierstrass is naturally quite differently oriented in meaning and result than is the imagination of an artist, and differs basically in quality. But the psychological processes do not differ. Both are frenzy in the sense of Plato's mania and inspiration. Now, whether we have scientific inspiration depends upon destinies that are hidden from us, and besides upon gifts. Last but not least, because of this indubitable truth, a very understandable attitude has become popular, especially among youth, and has put them in the service of idols, whose cult today occupies a broad place on all street corners and in all periodicals. These idols are personality and personal experience. Both are intimately connected. The notion prevails that the latter constitutes the former and belongs to it. People belabor themselves in trying to experience life, for that befits a personality conscious of its rank and station. And if we do not succeed in experiencing life, we must at least pretend to have this gift of grace. Formerly, we called this experience, in plain German, sensation, and I believe that we then had a more adequate idea of what personality is and what it signifies. Ladies and gentlemen, in the field of science, only he who is devoted solely to the work at hand has personality. And this holds not only for the field of science. We know of no great artist who has ever done anything but serve his work and only his work. As far as his art is concerned, even with a personality of Goethe's rank, it has been detrimental to take the liberty of trying to make his life into a work of art. And even if one doubts this, one has to be a Goethe in order to dare permit oneself such liberty. Everybody will admit at least this much, that even with a person like Goethe, who appears once in 1,000 years, this liberty did not go unpaid for. In politics, matters are not different, but we shall not discuss that today. In the field of science, however, the person who makes himself the impresario of the subject to which he should be devoted and steps upon the stage and seeks to legitimate himself through experience, asking, "How can I prove that I am something other than a mere specialist, and how can I manage to say something in form or in content that nobody else has ever said?" Such a person is no personality. Today, such conduct is a crowd phenomenon, and it always makes a petty impression and debases the one who is thus concerned. Instead of this, an inner devotion to the task, and that alone, should lift the scientist to the height and dignity of the subject he pretends to serve. And in this, it is not different with the artist.